Welcome to Redlands, California. Arguably the most beautiful city in SoCal's Inland Empire, Redlands, with a population of just around 72,000, boasts a fairly strong downtown. It is probably the most substantial downtown in San Bernardino County, despite only being the county's 12th largest city. But it does happen to be walkable, have amazing architecture, both historical and new, from the AK Smiley Library to the Redlands Bowl to the downtown train station, and is full of iconic local businesses that give Redlands a genuine sense of character that the rest of the Inland Empire simply lacks. And with its historic neighborhoods lined with beautiful Victorian homes laid out in pedestrian-friendly small blocks, and within walking distance to the city center, Redlands is one of those hidden gems of Southern California that even many SoCal natives have never heard of. But they certainly ought to. It doesn't mean, though, that Redlands is completely immune to car-centric suburban sprawl and development like the rest of the Inland Empire, but it is far less pronounced here than anywhere else in the region. Redlands' biggest urban planning sin actually took place in the downtown, which during the age of urban renewal was severely affected. Somehow, the most substantial downtown in San Bernardino County actually used to be even larger when the city had a fraction of the population. This is an overlay of the approximate boundaries of downtown Redlands in the 1940s on top of the aerial view of Redlands today. You'll see that while the downtown has expanded by a block or so eastward on State Street and Citrus Street back in the 70s and 80s, as reflected by the architecture, the high-rises, and single-use retail buildings, you'll also see that there's been car-centric suburban-style development with these mini-malls and shopping plazas. But the elephant in the room is this: the massive, mostly abandoned Redlands Mall. Just look at this monstrosity. There are literally no redeeming qualities to it, from its huge surface parking lot to its lifeless and featureless cinder block brown wall facade. This one project devastatingly wiped out a huge portion of Redlands' historic downtown when it was built in 1977, including the beautiful La Posada Hotel, the First National Bank building, as well as other charming and aesthetic buildings that made for walkable, human-scaled streets. And of course, the mall was a complete failure. Having closed in 2010, this extremely destructive project only lasted for 33 years. And ever since, the site is just a barren eyesore. Thankfully, Redlands has been making strides over the last few years to revitalize its downtown. While not everything that has been undertaken has been particularly urbanist, to say the least, between the development of single-use commercial buildings and this parking structure accompanying the downtown train station, at the very least the architecture is at least somewhat in line with the character of the city. I did say somewhat. But there are 4 actually urbanist projects being completed or have been approved, and 3 of them are genuinely exciting, including a massive project to finally heal the scar that is Redlands Mall. What are they? Will they actually happen? And are they any good? Really quick, I need to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Aura. Like all of you, I'm sure, I am absolutely flooded with spam calls and texts. It's just non-stop. And with my career now exclusively online, it's really scary to know that one of these days I can get hacked and lose everything. That's where Aura really comes in clutch. Aura works as an antivirus, password manager, and protects your identity from data brokers. It protects you from financial fraud, sending you alerts within minutes if someone tries to steal your credit card. They also offer a great VPN service and 24/7 US-based support. I've been using Aura for a few months now, and I've never felt more secure using the internet, enabling me to make content like the video you're watching right now with no stress that my information will be stolen. You guys deserve that peace of mind as well. Get all of these features for one affordable price. I'm not leaving myself and my family vulnerable to data breaches and brokers. And if you don't want to either, you can go to aura.com/alexanderrobbins to try 2 weeks for free. That will be enough time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data has been exposed. Now back to the video. Let's start with my least favorite. Across the street from the Redlands downtown station is this massive empty lot in a prime downtown location, which is why, understandably, this plot of land is due to undergo some serious development, with plans to turn this into an 88-unit mixed-use space with private courtyards and public space. Unfortunately, while that's all great on paper, the design is just terrible. I really don't understand why just a block away from the beautiful classical revival train station and the beautiful brick Main Street buildings, you'd put a building like this in place. While a mixed-use space here would be great, this feels like a wasted opportunity. The next project is one that is just about completed, and I was thankfully able to capture. This is the dubbed Santa Fe Depot District, which is essentially a revitalization of the area immediately surrounding the old train station. While the land use isn't ideal with a massive parking garage and a surface lot, as well as some of these buildings just refusing to have its entrance along Orange Street, and incorporating some fairly bland modern design elements despite their attempt to look architecturally appropriate for the downtown, and not to mention the single use, this is still a pretty good development for downtown, filling in some crucial gaps along Orange Street and Stewart Street, and with buildings that, all things considered, are actually semi-decent, and is mostly an improvement over what was there before. Well, I actually don't know. Replacing surface parking is an obvious good, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, this fairly nice classical revival building, mimicking the adjacent train station in what was very pleasant and made a lot of sense, has been torn down and replaced by what looks to be some modern box. I understand the previous building wasn't the greatest in the world, but seriously? Though I must point out that this project isn't fully complete yet, and the renderings look very, very different, so maybe it'll all work out. I guess we'll have to wait. But what is objectively pretty cool is that this project incorporated some much needed renovations to the actual historic buildings, and that is very much welcomed with this area looking absolutely pristine. And now for State Street Village, the absolutely massive project that is supposed to replace the failed disaster that is the Redlands Mall. This project will feature an extension of the State Street corridor, as was the original purpose of this block, with a grand paseo and archway that aims to turn this area into a new town square, which is extremely exciting. The massive block will be broken up into smaller, human-scale blocks with no on-street parking and lined with 3 to 4 story mixed-use buildings to match the historic downtown. The architecture, while not purely classical, will feature classical and historic elements to a degree that makes the project aesthetically look pretty amazing, and in some moments truly beautiful, with, as according to the project themselves, a variety of styles that honor all of the different design precedents of downtown Redlands, to which there is actually quite the diverse selection to work with, and should make this area visually very interesting, as one of the downfalls of many development projects, even the classical ones, is that the buildings are simply oversized and therefore make things quite boring at street level. Having constantly changing facades is an overlooked key aspect to making a place stimulating and organic. With 700 residential units, retail, office space, pedestrian walkways, and zero surface parking, street parking, or setbacks, this project is one of the best I've seen anywhere in the country. There unfortunately is a massive caveat. Despite this project having been approved nearly 3 years ago, no progress has been made at all, and from the research I've done, it seems that developers suddenly can't afford to go ahead with the project. As for the time of recording, the fate of the plot is still up in the air, with an auctioning off of the Redlands Mall block delayed a month, with the developers hoping to buy themselves more time, and the word is that there will likely be some crucial design changes made to the project amid the budgetary issues. This is bad news for many of the Redlands residents, as the abandoned mall remains, waiting to be torn down. Even in the brief time I spent here to film, I actually encountered a resident who complained about the, his words, very ugly mall still standing and shared his frustrations with the State Street Village project being unable to move forward. Let's hope that some positive developments happen sometime in the near future and that this project can move forward. And that if there really has to be some design changes, that it makes the project even better than what it currently is, though the cynical part of me has some serious doubts about that. And lastly, just west of the mall block and north of the beautiful Redlands post office building is this empty block that is slated to have developed a 131-unit residential building featuring a courtyard and commercial buildings on the corner. While the surface parking and setbacks are pretty annoying and make this project far from ideal, the buildings are actually quite beautiful and do at least face the street, and it will be interesting to see how well it flows into the State Street Village project if it were to get built, of course. And that goes for both projects, as this one has also seemed to have stalled for the last few years. So all in all, similar to Santa Barbara, while I admire Redlands' proactive vision and mission to improve its urban core and right some of the wrongs of the past urban renewal efforts, for one reason or another, the most important projects that would completely transform the city in a very positive way are just struggling to actually get going. The city, if it really is serious about these projects, which they seemingly are as they are proud to boast about them on the city website, needs to step it up and play its part in helping these projects move forward and actually happen. Because while they are letting these amazing projects slowly die and fade from reality, the stain that is the abandoned Redlands mall block and these other empty plots of land remain, and through their ugliness and emptiness, serve as a detriment to the quality of life here in Redlands. And not to mention the insane amounts of money being thrown away by having these plots not developed. Instead of housing thousands of residents and containing businesses and offices like they should actively be working towards, they are sitting here doing nothing for nobody. Redlands, thankfully, is already a great town and is the jewel of the Inland Empire, in my opinion at least. But it would be truly great to see these exciting plans, while they aren't perfect, see the light of day and make the city a true example for all the others in the region. A region dominated by horrible and ugly car-centric suburbia, and show that it doesn't have to be this way. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. And now a shout out to my incredible supporters on Patreon: Sven Weisbrod, Guy Courtois, Jean Baptista, Ruben Hansen, James Whale, Michael Goldman, Ulysses Arnold, Ehsan Mirza, Joseph, Roach, Eric Martz, Simon Kendrick, Fortunate Calf, VJ Mari, and my dad.